From first hunts to lifelong traditions, we're here to honor the heritage, hear the passion, and connect through the stories that make us all hunters. Grab your gear, find your stand, and listen in as we share another journey that shapes a hunter's legacy. This episode is brought to you by Logic Hunt, an app designed for the future of hunting, helping you prepare with purpose and pursue with precision. What's going on, man?
Not much. How you been?
Good. Long day at work, or what were you up to today?
Then when you texted this morning, I was doing a little running, and then we're getting close to graduation here at El Paso. So we had a little get together with some classmates.
Okay, so explain what you're doing for graduation or what you're graduating.
I'm active duty Army. I've been doing it. August will be 20 years. I'm currently at the SR Major Academy here at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. I've been here since July of last year. So a year of no hunting and no archery activity, limited here in the desert. And then, of course, with the school schedule and everything going on, has been trying to find that balance to get it done. So took a year off, and I'm ready to get back after. I'm going back to Central Texas, up at Fort Cavazos, formerly known as Fort Hood. And they've got some phenomenal deer hunting there. So I'm excited to get back after it and try to get some deer on the ground this year.
Maybe you said this and I missed it. Where are you located at right now?
Right now, El Paso, Texas. It's at the very western side of Texas, right next to New Mexico. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing your classes and all that stuff?
The class is about 10 months. It started last July, and we graduate June 8th. It's about a year-long school.
And what's the plan after school?
I'll do another 4 to 5 years in the military, and then I'll retire probably about 25 years or so.
How long have you been in the military?
20 years.
You've been in the military for 20 years?
Yep. August of this year will be 20 years.
And have you spent any time overseas?
I've deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, and I've done operations in Europe and Korea.
Well, we definitely appreciate your service. Are you ready to retire?
Yes and no. There's still a little bit of burn in the belly, so we'll keep going until that goes away, and then we'll go from there. But I enjoy what I do. It keeps me young. I just turned 40 back in March. Being able to still get up in the morning and run 4 to 5 miles is pretty cool. Can't say that about too many 40-year-olds this time of age, so it's not too bad.
What's one of your favorite experiences so far from your time in the military, and what's one of the worst experiences, if you don't mind sharing?
There's so many favorites. It's a brotherhood, really. Probably my favorite time, believe it or not, was a deployment to Afghanistan. Just the group of people that you're with. It's hard to explain it unless you've been part of it. The tight-knit family brotherhood piece of it is phenomenal. And so it's spending 12 months with those guys, and it was a really humbling and learning experience. Everything I do, I equate it to learning, right? It was a good time. One of the most memorable times was, there's plenty of different ones and stuff like that, but probably spending 12 months over there with those guys, that was something you'll never forget. And then probably the worst was in Afghanistan, same rotation. One of the vehicles that was in front of me struck a IED, or improvised explosive device, killing all 3 in the vehicle. But probably out of all the IEDs that I've seen, that was the largest one that I've ever seen that has detonated. We've seen some that we found, and of course we placed some other explosives on there to get rid of it. But by far, that was the biggest one I've ever seen actually detonate.
Man, I can't imagine. Sorry you had to go through that. Do you feel like you're in a pretty good space mentally right now?
Yeah, and that kind of goes, and I think some of the notes that I put in towards it is, I had a lieutenant ask me one day, she had stated, how do you do it? I said, because there's still 23 other people over here that we still got to care about. And there's a time for us to decompress, if you will, and take a moment and step back. But when you're over there, you just got to keep going. There's a place and a time, and they give you a little bit of 24 hours, hey, reset, regroup, and then you got to go back out and do it again. So you got to be ready. But it's how you go forward with it, and don't dwell on it too much. So don't try to keep it in. And then, of course, one of the stigmas in the military is don't use behavioral health. So for any of the military guys out there that listen to your podcast, definitely take that opportunity to take care of yourself. You got to take some time personally for yourself, because if not, then things just start compounding and then revert to drinking or other stuff that can lead down the wrong path, and you don't want that. And there's systems and opportunities for those soldiers to get out there and utilize that stuff. Big proponent of that. But you got to take care of your head. So that's why I lean on the hunting, and running is a big one. Technically, I really don't like running, but it's a love-hate relationship, if that makes any sense. So it gives that zen time, if you will, to just decompress. And then just really heavily on the family. Me and my wife been married 19 years this year. We got 3 kids. They're a big part of it, even though sometimes they get foreshadowed a little bit. The family aspect of it has to be placed up there, high importance, because they support you. When you're gone, they're still running the house. Right now, she's still in East Texas, raising kids and running them through cheer practice and baseball or football, and still works a full-time job. She's really the rock in the whole thing.
Oh, good. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, man, I appreciate you sharing all that stuff with us. So you said it's been a year since you've hunted. How do you handle the withdrawals?
I watch a lot of videos. I started listening to your podcast. I still have guys reach out to me. Hey, what do you think about this? I was actually listening to one. We can have a conversation about it. I can't remember if it was 2 ago or so, but y'all talked about these broadheads.
Oh, yeah, that was me. I haven't tried them out yet.
Phenomenal broadheads. Fully support them. I started looking at new equipment. You can never prepare enough. Your craftsmanship might shift a little bit one way or the other, but I've predominantly shifted to just pure saddle hunting. I'll run a hybrid setup a little bit, but I don't rifle hunt. It's always bow, and it's caught me at the rear end a few times. I could have picked up a rifle and done it, but once I started bow hunting back in 2010, I just got the edge for it and just wanted to keep doing it. Do a little rifle hunting for varmints like pigs or coyotes or anything like that. But if I'm going to the deer woods, it's going to be with my bow. Just looking at that stuff, trying to keep up with this new equipment that's coming out, listening to some of the other podcasts that are out, and just waiting, looking for it. I've already started scouting. I've played around with Logic because I usually run Onyx. It's a phenomenal platform. So I've started incorporating that one into it, and I've already done some pre-scouting. I've been at Fort Hood before, so I know of some things, but we'll probably get to some of those questions later on about public coming in the cameras and things you can and can't do on public land. So we'll probably get into that a little further on, but that's where I'm at right now.
When you talk about bow hunting in Texas, that kind of surprises me. I'm not familiar with Texas. So
Yeah.
when I think deer hunting in Texas, I think about these blinds with long range shooting.
Yeah.
So describe the terrain.
You got to look at Texas and break it up. If you took an X or made a cross across Texas and broke it up in 4 quadrants, really, the eastern part of Texas is heavy vegetation, a little bit of topography to it. And then when you start getting towards this eastern part of Texas, which if you look at some things, they got a thing that's called like the Golden Triangle. And it's parts of Houston down to San Antonio. And then I can't remember but it's a mix of pines and oaks. So you can see those real hard transition lines. If you hunt transition lines or anything like that, where it'll change from hardwood to the softwood, which would be the pine a little bit. And central Texas starts getting a little more rockier and what we call hill country. And then further west where I'm at right now is to the desert. That's where I'm at right now. And then northwest Texas is real open, farmland, agriculture, cleaned off, not a lot of trees up there. Now, what everybody sees on TV is deep South Texas towards like the Uvalde area where you see them killing just monstrous deer down there. That's a mix between mesquite, like thicket brushes, and they have some pretty big bluffs down there because it starts getting along that area where it's mountainous in a way, but it's kind of desert type terrain down there. So bow hunting that stuff is interesting. I have not personally been down that deep far south to bow hunt. I've tried to get a few hunts going on, but timing and scheduling just doesn't add up. But you'll see guys hunt out of those big box blinds with bows. And then another thing that is effective, and I've done this at Fort Hood up in Central Texas, is you just get a ground blind and you got to brush it in real good because those deer are super smart. And it's using the craftsmanship to make it where it's your own. But some of those hunts down there, I like to call them can hunt. Guys have put a lot of work and effort into the ranches down there. You can hit a coal deer that they're saying, hey, this is about his max potential for $6,000. But at the same time, they have deer out there that range up to the $15,000, $20,000. So it depends on how deep your pockets are and what kind of hunt you want to do. But there's ranches down there, and I call them can hunts, is that you pretty much know the deer is going to be there because somebody's put the work in to say, hey, this is his schedule. He's going to come out at this time. Okay, there he is. You can shoot him. Takes the sport out of it.
If I was going to pay $15,000 to shoot a whitetail, I don't think I'd go to Texas to do it.
Oh, no. There's the times where city folks decide that they want to be country folks, and that's their way of getting it done. Hey, by all means, if that's the way to do it, that's the way to do it. Just not my style to do it.
You were talking about hunting. What kind of hardwoods are you dealing with?
There's a mixture. You got all your oaks. So up at my place in where I'm originally from in Northeast Texas, around like the Tyler, Dallas area, I'm like right in the middle of them. So if you're familiar with Northeast Texas. If you heard of Dallas, I'm about 45 minutes east of Dallas. So some of that's going to be your oak trees, pecan trees, those kind of hardwoods. And then it's got a lot of bottomland in it too. The pine trees don't do very well until you start getting further east towards Louisiana. It's predominantly made up of oak trees, and that's what I would consider hardwood.
You mentioned pecans. Do the deer like to eat those?
I don't know. I've never really thought about that.
You hear people talk about I can't even think of what they're called.
Is it like a persimmon?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's persimmon trees, and they don't tear those up. But some of that is, you've probably heard about the extensive amount of wild pigs we have down here.
Oh, yeah.
If they're anywhere, that stuff won't last long. They'll tear that up quick.
They don't grow very high off the ground.
They're decent trees, but they don't get super big. I wouldn't climb one because as soon as it gets a little taller, it's a little thinner up there.
The hogs might not be able to reach them, but they just tear
As soon as it drops on the ground, yeah, they'll get it. So you got those. There's another tree that's a fruit producing tree. There's some wildberry vines that kind of grow in and out of this stuff. So where they want to forage at and nibble on stuff, they have options for a bunch of a browser, however you want to say it, for them to get after.
Up here in Iowa, we don't have a lot of fruit trees. Some people plant them. There might be an apple tree in somebody's yard, but more than not, if stuff's falling to the ground and in the timber, it's acorns.
Yeah, it's mainly the fruit ones that are going to be your persimmon trees. And this may be that somebody planted them, but you got some, I don't know if they're wild plum trees or something like a persimmon that they'll get into.
What do people plant for food plots down there?
I would probably say some kind of form of clover. And then your agricultural, there'll be some coastal fields, but a predominant food plot would probably be clover.
No corn or soybean plots?
Some might, maybe up in Northwest, but down where I'm at in Northeastern, they'll have some maize fields, but not just for that, because the clover, it'll withstand the elements, if that makes sense. They could plant it each year, it'll grow back. You might go back out there and do a little bit of extra fertilizer or whatever, but it's pretty easy to get going. And once it goes, you got a pretty good food plot out there.
How much rain do you get where you're at?
So the last couple of years, they've got a lot. There's been a couple of days or 3 or 4 days in a row that they've dropped 5 or 6 inches of rain. But then once you start getting out of that rainy season and drifting, because bow season in Texas doesn't open up till October. I don't remember the exact date in October. It's kind of a late season for bow season, because when I was in Georgia, it opened up in September.
Yep.
And so the rain season will taper off, and then you got to go through a pretty dry summer. And then October, you could still be doing mid hunts in the morning at 75 degrees. And then it's 90 in the afternoon.
When's the rut in Texas where you're hunting?
It's a later one. I would probably say it starts picking up pretty good around Thanksgiving weekend and then through December. And it could go all the way up till January. And then southern Texas, and that thing can range from first part of November on the way out. But November is probably about the right time. Probably start seeing some pre-rut action in October, and then really starts picking up towards the end of November.
I need to pull up a rut map and see, because we're first week of November, middle, and I had a guy on from Florida for the last podcast. It'll be a few weeks out, but he said they're about the same time as us. The episode that launched this week with Josh Grace, he said theirs is a little bit later. We're early November. Alabama might be late November, and then northern Florida's early November. And the guy from Florida said down in South Florida, their rut's in August or something like that.
That's crazy. Yeah. Alabama, I can contest, because I funded down when I was stationed down there at Fort Benning, which really opened up my eyes of hunting what we call the big woods. Yeah, that November's about the right time, because they'll start chasing pretty good, and you can start seeing their necks swell up. It's pretty interesting.
Would you say South Texas, their rut's a little bit earlier than yours?
It can be.
But not really.
Yeah, it's probably going to be about the same time. Let's see if I can do a little research. Now, that's an interesting question.
Because you would think there'd be a pattern from south to north.
Yeah.
South Texas, their peak breeding's August. So it is right, depending on how you come up from Florida. So it's August, September, and then there's a little pocket that's January, and then it goes up to October, and then November, and then depending on which direction you go in Alabama, it could be October, November, or December.
4 or 5 different ruts.
You have August, September, October, November, December, and January. 6 months worth of rut, depending on where you're at in Florida.
Yeah. Deep South Texas, I think that's going to be the Edwards Plateau. Yeah. Okay. So Edwards Plateau, that's Deep South Texas. It says as early as October 9th to a late date of January 30th. Eastern part had a peak breeding date of November 7th. And then for the central portion was November 24th. And the western area, which would be up towards the northwestern, peak date of December 5th. So it fluctuates through there. And that's off the Texas Park and Wildlife website.
Kind of makes sense a little bit, but the pockets is what I don't understand. If you look at the National Deer Association map, it's August, September, October, but there's a little pocket in there on the West Coast that's January.
Yeah.
And it goes back to October. That's super interesting. And then there's a pocket in the very tip of Florida that's February. If you Google Rut Map US and look at the image National Deer Association, the entire country is November, but they have 6 different months of rut in Florida.
Yep.
I just don't know what causes those little pockets like that.
I don't know, because I'm looking at it now. If you look at Alabama and Georgia, where Fort Benning kind of lies, it says January.
Florida?
In Georgia, Alabama.
But look at the very far west edge of Florida. It's got that pink in it. That's February.
Holy smokes. And 4 hours north is about where Fort Benning is. And yeah, it says January. I don't get that. That's one of nature's funny ways of getting after it.
So there's 7 months of rut depending on where you're at in Florida.
Yeah. It's interesting. And then we start talking rut. I've been in a tree and seen a buck chasing a doe around. I don't remember the exact month. But then 2 weeks later, all of it slows down. And then you can go to a different area. And is this part of the area does are in right now and they're getting over there to them? It's crazy how that works.
I don't know if it's just how I've paid attention over the years, but I've noticed a second rut get what I feel like is more predominant in the past 5 years, sometime around that December 5th through Christmas. Noticed it more in the past couple of years.
Yep. One of my buddies I hunted with at Fort Benning, he's put some studs on the ground out on public land out there. And this was like the week and a half before Thanksgiving. He was out in the woods. That was in southern Georgia, next to Alabama border. And he knew those states. And I think each state has a time where it's super predominant. And you're up in Iowa, right?
Yep.
Yep. And I'm going to say that probably Iowa, it's any deer hunter's dream to try to draw a tag up in Iowa and get up there and hunt a deer, because, and Kansas is the same way. Over the years, they know when that peak rut is, and that kind of stays the same. I wonder if weather and all that stuff, I think, drives it a little bit, but location within the U.S., does that drive it?
I think you wanted to say it, but you weren't sure of yourself. You said weather might impact it a little bit. I don't think it does.
I don't think weather does. You hear all that. You see it, and I was like,
used to think so, but the past couple of years, especially last year, breweries were pushing, man, last week of October, it's going to go from 60s down to a high of 28. Pressure's going to go into upper 30s. This is going to be peak rut. Sat out, took work off, didn't see crap.
Yep.
And then the next week it went back up to 60 degrees, November 7th, 60 to 70 degrees, pressure down below 30. Deer movement was through the roof.
I used to be super tuned into those, this day's going to drop down to 30 degrees and it's going to be this and this. And I go out there and sit and not see anything. And it could have been my own fault, right? I could have got winded, whatever the case may have been. But I think it would take some scientific research to be like, what is the normal estrus cycle of a deer to really hone in those minute details exactly. But then you would be testing all kinds of deer to say, because this doe is not going to come in the same as this doe. You may over your population. It'd be interesting to see somebody try to do some research. It's been done, because that's how they've judged it and made a calendar about this. I think we're both in agreement that it can shift left or right. It could be a week early, a week late before it really starts hitting that peak.
The peak rut is going to be within a couple days, no matter what. The weather might impact how good it is during the peak rut, but I don't think the rut's going to shift a week forward or a week back. And yes, I used to think that until last year with that big cold front last week, first couple days of November, and it literally impacted deer movement. I don't know.
And I think the other thing is the maturity of the deer probably have something to do with that too. So some of the younger ones may be chasing, but it's really when you start seeing the big mature deer move, that's probably peak time, because now they're coming out. They didn't get that big for no reason, for one. And so they start letting things slip.
I could go on for hours about this, but deer, obviously, they evolve. And I feel like, especially over the past 10 years, they have evolved to be more smart during the rut. if that makes sense. When I was a kid, you used to see big bucks chasing does across the open cornfield all the time. They'd be bedded down in road ditches. They'd be bedded down with the doe in the middle of a cut field, clear as day for everybody to see them. And you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And I hate to use the word pressure. I hate using pressure, but it's a real thing.
Oh, 100%. The pressure has evolved the deer.
Yeah, it's a real thing. So it does either pushes them a little deeper or it pushes them to use different ways of doing things and how they get to point A to point B. One thing I've heard is deer are creatures of habit and creatures of edge. They like to be camouflaged enough that they could run a field that they know that they feed on, but also it gives them the cover and the protection. They're going to go eat, sleep, find water somewhere, but it's not going to be too far off the beaten path of what they're used to. I've watched them enough that I've seen deer be on one side of the road one night. The next night they're in a field across the road. A night or two later, they're back in the same spot they were before. So they have that hub they like to travel in, if you will.
With my own eyes, I've seen it. You used to be able to blind rattle when I was a kid, and there'd always be something come in. I don't rattle unless I need to now, but if I blind rattled 20 times, I bet I'd call something in once, maybe.
Yeah, calls. We were after this. We had a big deer on camera, and he was smart. I seen a glimpse of him. I was at a stand, and I had some smaller deer behind me, and he was probably 90 yards away from me, coming up a draw. I hit him with a grunt. It stopped him, but not enough. He was like, wait, that's not normal.
Is it flat where you're at?
I would say yes. Comparably to some other areas, it's flat. This was at Fort Benning in Georgia.
I always wondered if line of sight has something to do with it. For example, deer are smart. They know exactly where that sound's coming from.
Oh, yeah.
If they hear a sound and look and don't see two bucks fighting or a buck grunting, something's up.
Oh, yeah. Hunters, with the same sense of deer, always want to find the easiest path to get to somewhere. So where we were hunting at is complete opposite. You had to get in some stuff to get after the big deer. So once I changed my mindset that way, I started seeing more deer regularly because I was opening some of those hardwood bottoms that were open. I would see deer in there, but it wasn't regularly. Once I shifted it to get in that real thick cover in there, it opened up a whole other mess of opportunities, some that I squandered. Kind of story for that one. Yeah, I think as hunters in general, I think we get into a groove and don't want to break the cycle and try something new because it's not normal. But sometimes I'm like, hey, getting in that stuff. It's disgusting in there. But you get in there and you do some preseason scouting or late season scouting, and now you start seeing all the trails cut through. You're like, this is where they're at. This is where I got to be.
I know I need to do that because the timber I hunt's 40 acres and it's got a lot of multiflower rows.
Yeah.
And 95% of the timber, it's probably going to be impossible to get a shot off just because it's so thick. So I always hunt the edge, but there's got to be a way to get in there somehow.
I wouldn't say it's counterproductive or not. It's probably been successful for you, so you're used to it. This is successful. I don't want to get in here and hunt this because the shot may be right. That may just be some time preseason to go in there and clear shooting lanes, not to mess it up too much, but provide you the opportunity to take a cleaner shot, even though if it's 15 yards, 5 yards. And I think that's where I'm at now, evolving as a hunter. I still have a lot of learning to do, but finding that opportunity to start turning the table and putting the cards back in my hand and kind of doing it that way. Just a little extra work.
Yeah, deer like that edge. And even if they're scouting for doe, people might think, okay, they're just going to run this edge between the food plot and the edge of the timber. Reality is maybe they're 75 yards in running that same line.
Yep. And this is another thing. I'll come up and I'll see a pretty fresh, if not active, scrape line. And I'll be like, okay, so I'll start game planning it out. I'll get set up. One afternoon, I set up on a hunt, active scrape line, and about 30 yards in front of me, inside, deeper in the edge, if you will, real nice deer came through there. He just skirted on the backside of it. People talk about, are they scent checking it? What are they doing to make a move that way? And once again, in that thick cover, he just skirted right through there. That's a prime example of the edge was there, the scrape line was there, all the signs pointed to, hey, that's a spot. But then again, is that one of those scrapes they're hitting at nighttime?
They're smart, man. During the rut, they're putting on a lot of miles. If I'm scouting for chicks at the bar, I'm not walking to every single corner of the bar. I'm going to take the fastest route, the most efficient route around the bar and use my eyes and not my nose.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
a deer, scope it out before going to certain areas. Deer are probably doing the same thing. They don't need to be right on top of it.
Yeah. And the ones that say luck's not part of it, oh, 100%. You have to be, one, you have to set yourself up to be successful, but then luck plays into it a little bit. And that's what drives me crazy about some of the professional hunters. I'm like, get out of here with that. That doesn't work that way. Oh, yeah, 100%. All money. All money.
If you were to take one of them and transplant them on this little 40-acre timber I have, are they going to be killing giant deer?
Might be
Like
3 hunters.
Yeah. I kill as many big deer on their property as they do? Probably not.
Yep.
Will I kill bigger deer than I'm doing right now? Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I'm not saying that I'm as good as hunters they are. I'm not, but it's a little overblown.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I don't want to go too far down. That's a different topic for a different day.
Anyways, I think we're on the same page here, but yeah, I do think luck has a giant part to do with it. I feel like I had way more opportunities when I didn't know anything than I do right now.
Because you overthink it.
You know?
Yep. And there's one guy that I love to listen to, wrong or indifferent, is the Quisto son. Yep. Cody, I think's his name. Yep. Although they do have prime hunting land where they're at, but he doesn't go into the rabbit hole of all the crazy stuff and some of the older podcasts he's done. Biggest thing is hunt the wind. Keep that in your favor and you're going to be fine. So his thing is always scouting. He's always glassing a field. He's always setting up somewhere. But he puts in the legwork to do that. Now it's on his property, understandable. But at the same time, most of that is applicable to even public land, because public land gets a bad rap because it has too many hunters and too much pressure. Sometimes you just got to put the extra miles in to get away from that and out there. But then it goes back into what I was going to earlier, is that preseason scouting. You have to get out there before season, have backup plans. In the military, we talk about contingency plans. Okay, this spot ain't going to situate this wind. Let's move this way. And that comes back up to the mobile hunting aspect of it.
I was just looking at my extreme ownership sign. You're nothing if you're not agile or innovate and adapt.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect words right there.
And that goes back to timing. One of the reasons I want to start this podcast is because everybody's opportunity to get out in the woods and priorities is a little bit different. My property I hunt, which I could find something closer if I wanted to put in the work, but I have 40 acres 2 hours away that I know absolutely nobody else can hunt.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit harder to get up there and scout and whatnot. But I tell myself this every year: if you ever want to shoot a 200-inch deer, you're going to have to go find one. You just can't wait for one to show up on your property.
Yeah. And it's probably there. I don't know if y'all can run cameras up there. I know that's getting real sticky right now with cameras in certain places. But yeah, the property that I grew up on, learning the outdoors, hunting and fishing, I was going towards an area that I knew that had some decent deer in there, and I saw a little 8-point come through, and I got out to the tree and I looked, and there was another. He was a big deer for that area. He probably had a 20-inch spread from tip to tip, just a real big deer for the area. And I was like, why didn't I know about this thing? They're there. But I blew that because I was on the ground, not set up. I have 2 stories like that, actually. And it just takes a little bit. And then that's why I want to jump on is you talk about timing, personal life, and how the everyday blue-collar hunter, if you want to call it that, we always have competing efforts. You got family, you got work, you got events, you got kids got going this way. So it's always difficult. But it's one of those things, I think, that if you develop a time, especially if you're married and have kids, you still have to have that time for yourself. So it's just finding that. We talk about it up here in the military all the time, the work-life balance.
Exactly.
You have to still think of yourself. And this goes all the way back to when we very first started talking about how to stack kind of the middle state of it. And, you know, the spiritual belief, whatever you believe in, it's that little bit of time. Even though if you can get a sit for 4 hours, you're still getting out in the woods. You're still doing something that keeps you happy and pushing and motivating and all the jazz words. But it's just finding that time to make it a priority, because there's always something that's going to be competing with that. And you just got to say, hey, I want to hunt this today or that day. So you start laying out your time to make it work.
Yeah, that's a great point. Everybody has the same 24 hours in the day. It's all how you prioritize what you want to do. Yep. Now, I know a couple of people that love to hunt, and whereas me, I'm still going to always prioritize time in the woods. Maybe hunting was a couple notches down for them, so they don't hunt anymore.
That's something I hate to see, because hunting itself it's more of a passion-driven thing. It's people talk about, oh, we could do this. But if golfing is part of, just say, their business model, or their company does golf outings and they're not really passionate about golfing, but they find that time to go golfing, you can start working that same mentality and say, you know what, I want to get back out in the woods. How do I get after that? And using that kind of same thing. But like you said, it's just now it starts here, but then all of a sudden it starts getting chalked down to the bottom. I don't have time for this. And I just hate to see it.
Yeah, I know my brother, for example, he farms, so that's pretty busy, and he has kids.
Yeah.
But he could probably find time to go, but he would just rather spend time working with younger kids at youth wrestling.
Yeah, that comes to priority thing. So I think that one of my things that I did was that depending on my work schedule, I'll be like, hey, I asked the wife, say, well, got anything going on this weekend? No, not really. Okay, cool. I'm going to go I'm going to leave in the morning. I'll be back between 11 and 12. Then I try to get that 2 to 3 hours back at the house, spend time with them. And then I try to go out for an afternoon hunt. And if I couldn't make an afternoon hunt, I was out the next morning doing the kind of same thing. It was just trying to find that balance that everything worked out that way.
If it comes down to work or hunting, there's nothing work related that's so important that you can't make time to hunt. Farming's a little different because you have seasons and whatnot, but you can always make time.
24 hours in a day. How do you manage it?
So how long have you been bow hunting? Since day one?
No. So it started back, I was probably 11, 12 years old. Went on my first hunt with my uncle down in a place called Hamilton, Texas, in Central Texas, north of Austin a little bit, and shot a basket case 9-point.
Yep.
Yeah, with the 25-06. Ended up shooting a doe same weekend. So it got me hooked. And it's funny how this worked. I transitioned from chasing whitetail, so I got really big into pig hunting because it's fun. You run dogs on them, trap them, whatever. So I haven't killed one with a knife. You can, once you get them in the pen or whatever, running them with bay dogs and all that stuff.
The episode I recorded last week, it'll be June, end of June. The guy from Florida, I actually met him. Buddy took us down to Florida, and they had the bay dogs like you, but the dogs would just grab them by the neck, and you just grab them by the rear leg, flip them down, and somebody'd come in right through the heart. So we did that for a couple nights. God, it was fun.
Oh, yeah. It's a good time. Now, the really good thing about Texas, and now that they're considered a nuisance or a pest, you can hunt them with suppressors and thermal optics.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
What do you run for a thermal?
So the thermal we got is an 18, I don't remember the nomenclature on it, but it's a good thermal. I got a Silencer Co. Hybrid 46 suppressor. It's currently on a 300 Blackout. I just built a AR platform in 350 Legend. So that's going to be the new pig gun.
I might have to block out that part where he said you have an ATN.
Oh, for the name brand?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's an ongoing joke. A lot of people like, oh, he shot a cow thinking it was a pig. But
oof, yeah, that's no good. Yeah, it's not an ATN. It's a thermal optic.
There we go. Or knock picks somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, it's thermal that shows imagery really well at nighttime.
Yeah.
So I transitioned to there. I did that for, man, I was having a good time. People would call and they'd want to train bay dogs. So they'd call me up, hey, Brandon, I got these pigs. You want them? Because it got to the point like I was shooting pigs and calling people, say, hey, you want these pigs for meat? Nope. Okay. I'd call a couple of people, nothing to see a sounder of 30 to 50 pigs.
That's
to
crazy.
Get together. It's insane, man. Trapping became more realistic because you could control, and now they've got some really sophisticated traps. You can probably catch a sounder of, I think it's up to 50 pigs in a pen at a time.
The whole cage drop.
Yep.
Those are
and
sweet.
Anybody that asks how to get rid of pigs, I'm going to tell them that's the best way. You can go out there and shoot 10, 15 pigs a night. Unfortunately, you haven't done anything. You got to catch a sounder. And
is that what they call herd of hogs?
Yeah, it's just a sounder. They've got the boars in there. They've got sows in there. They got baby piglets, and they reproduce like nobody else's business. I think they can have a litter, or I don't know what they call them, but they can have little piglets every 6 months. It's insane. So if you got anybody comes on and wants to know about pigs, just spend the money and get, I think it's called like the Pig Buster, but you set it up on your phone, pull your phone up, you get an alert on there. You can look at it. Oh, there's only 2 or 3 pigs in there, because pigs get super trap smart.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they know. They'll go up, and if that camera's on them, you'll see them. A couple of them will get trapped, and they're like, okay, I'm going to get away from this. But then they start understanding what it is. And it depends on how you put the bait. If you use corn or whatever you're using to bait the trap, they'll just go up there and nudge it until the door shuts. And then they just take the corn and nothing happens. It's pretty insane to watch.
Get your money's worth. 30, 50 hogs in there.
Yep, you get that. And there's a couple companies here in Texas that'll buy them and they slaughter them. But guys were wanting them to train their bay dogs. So certain sizes, they don't want too big when they're training their puppies, because those pigs can get pretty aggressive pretty quick. 50, 70 pound pig, Okay, I'll take that off your hands. Then it's on them because I'm not dealing with it anymore. But they train the dogs with them to teach how to bay and get in there.
I've always had an idea I wanted to try, but I don't know if it'd work or not. So I always had this vision of just getting this massive tannerite set up, and I would sprinkle corn all the way around it. And that would definitely do some damage, but I would have the bucket of tannerite
Yeah.
inside like a bag of steel bearings. So when you shoot it, it's ball bearings.
Yeah, it might be effective. It would have to be a very well-placed shot, and the Terranite, it would have to go on because even suppressed guns, they go. That first crack, you do get a couple more shots off because they don't know where it came from. They don't see very well. It'd be worth a shot. I've done it with some beaver dams.
I've seen tannerite blow up a lot of hogs without the steel bearings,
Yeah.
but I can just imagine the compression from the tannerite and the ball
With steel
bearings.
bearings. Oh, yeah. It'd be intense. I'd like to see that.
Look
And
what it
then-
does to a fridge, man. It's,
And it's insane, isn't it? And that's stuff you can buy off the shelf.
you know,
Way to go, America. Texas A&M down here is got a project they're working on. It's been in the works for several years, but there's a lot of questions going on with it to the fact that they've got this stuff that you can put out on the ground. The pigs will eat it. It'll kill them. But then it's okay. What are we going to do with all the carcasses? And what about livestock? What about if they go to a pond or some kind of river that drives into some kind of drinking water? What is that affecting that? And so that's where they're stumped at. It'll be interesting what A&M comes up with down here. They do a lot of that stuff because the thorn trees down here are notorious for just keep growing and growing. I don't think you have any of those in Iowa, but the mesquite trees, A&M's came up with this stuff, and you go to a class and you come back and you can spray it on this trees and all the trees around it will stay alive, but that mesquite thorn tree will just die. It's impressive. They're trying to do something similar for the hogs, and it may be where Texas Park and Wildlife get involved and they monitor that, but they're fun to hunt. That's the thing.
it's got to be the same situation as pythons in Florida. It's
Oh,
just
very
gonna be-
invasive. Yeah.
It's going to be impossible to get it under control.
Yeah, it's crazy. I joined the military 05, and then I was in Iraq in 07 to 08. When I came back, 2010 is when I bought my first bow, saved up some money.
What was it?
It was a Matthews DXT.
Really? My first Matthews I bought myself brand new was Adrenaline, which would have been the year before.
So I went out and got a DXT, practiced with it, and I shot a pig with it. And then I moved to Colorado, lived up at Fort Carson for 5 years, and then I ended up picking a Reason 7.0.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I killed several pigs with that one. And I actually drew a tag up in Leadville, Colorado for a mule deer, and I ended up fracturing my leg. So that went out the window. Yeah, it was miserable. So I put in for 2 years in a row for mule deer. I think the second year that I put in is when I drew a tag up in Leadville, and then I fractured my leg. And so that was out the window.
Isn't the Reason supposed to be a speed bow?
Yeah, it was
What do
supposed
you-
to be.
Or are you still shooting Matthews?
I shoot elite now. I did shoot a VXR 31. It's a good bow, super quiet, but something just about elites. I just love them. They're easy. They're super comfortable. I can shoot it all day long. So I switched to elite, but I've shot pretty much every bow manufacturer out there that you can shoot. I'm just comfortable with elite. That's what it comes down to, the draw cycle on it. It's a super smooth draw cycle all the way through, but with those cams, it's a little bit different as they progress through it. Now the new ones are phenomenal. I think what steered me away from Matthews is how they were overloading their limbs. It started getting real stiff on the front end of it until it broke over into the valley of the bow and then you got to the back wall. They're phenomenal to shoot, but I just steered away from it. It just felt real stiff up front. And a lot of bows are going that way now. But I'm hunting bows. I try not to go over 65 pounds. So I try to get 65-pound limbs. And then my target bow that I shoot, a 60-pound bow. If you think of how a bow works, when most bow limbs typically work like this, and then they started preloading them, and they start getting like this. And so now if you look at a Matthews bow, when you draw it, that limb's almost touching the riser.
You know,
There's only so much carbon and whatever material they use for those. It can only withstand so much.
everybody wants the parallel limbs.
Yep. And that's where I think speed comes from. I'm not a big speed guy.
Really matter that much.
Now we're going down this path. I don't like super heavy arrows either. I know there was a humongous fad going about that, but if you haven't looked at them or heard about them, serious archery company. I shoot their Apollos in a 300 spine, and my typical weight on an arrow is about 475.
Okay. So
And
100
so I-
grain broadheads.
I use 125 broadheads, and I do that specifically with the Severs Typically on a 125 grain broadhead, they're a little bit thicker.
Yep.
Nothing's wrong with 100 grain. Now that if I want to mess with weight, that's typically what I'll do is mess with that. Once I found out about the Severs, that's all I went to. They're phenomenal broadheads. And I wasn't very big mechanical guy. Of course, Rage was humongous back in the day, slip cam, blah, blah, but you'll bend a blade on a Rage real fast. Sometimes they don't open. I wish I had a Sever here. I'd show you. So when it opens full deploy, it looks very similar to a Rage. But what it'll do is that it's on a pivot thing. So instead of staying locked down, it never locks itself out. It'll push itself back in and then come back out.
Okay.
So it has a little tooth up front that kind of actuates it. Yeah, I wish I had one here.
I know what you're saying. I think Beast Broadheads does something similar.
Yeah, Beast is very similar, but they're devastating. That is a devastating broadhead.
The Severs are?
Oh, yeah. Season of 23. It might have been early 24, but either way, that season, I ended up shooting 2 doe late in the season, and one of them was a real close shot. First, I wasn't going to shoot her, and then I was like, now you're right underneath me. I can't have you blowing me out of the tree. And that was a 5-yard shot, but it went in back shoulder, down and out, and she ran probably 25 yards and was down.
Really?
Yeah, it was quick. Then I shot another one, and she ran 10 yards max, and it was over.
That's incredible.
And this is not harsh shots. The one that ran like 10 yards, I was a little high. I'm pretty sure I clipped some lungs on it, though, because it was steep. She was lower down in the hill, and I was up at a tree stand, and so it was high and behind the shoulder.
Single
but it's
lung,
just
probably.
Yeah, single. That's what I'm thinking, single lung. Yeah. But they're very durable, and the ferrule stays really strong because you can get them where they're made out of titanium. And the only downside, I think, to them is the blades are a pain to deal with. It comes with a little tool, and you kind of finagling in there. And it's a real pain to get them.
I've noticed that when I had one out playing around with it.
Yeah. And once you figure that trick out to get them set back, because it's like inside the ferrule where they sit, and because they'll walk out kind of like this, there's like a tab that you got to push down to bring them back in. That's probably the only negative thing I have about those broadheads.
So they have a special tool?
Yeah, it comes with a package. It's a little red handle. It's almost like a little wedge. I'm trying to find a better way to do it, but I haven't found one yet.
And each individual broadhead has one?
I don't know.
Pack of 6. I don't remember seeing one in there, the tool. Maybe there is.
Maybe they fixed it finally, because
that's there to get it back together, I remember.
I've cut my fingers on it. Gosh, dog it, man. It's come on, just go back in there easily. But that's probably my only negative about them. If fixed broadheads, Magnus makes really good fixed broadheads. If your bow's tuned up pretty good, another one is Tooth of the Arrow Archery.
Tooth of the Arrow? Fixed or?
Oh, yeah. It's a broadhead. That thing is nasty.
Fixed?
It's fixed, yeah. It's a fixed broadhead. It's made from one solid piece of steel, and they hit hard.
Looks pretty nasty.
Yeah. And then, of course, I have to throw it in there to support Sirius and them is Tough Head broadheads.
Tough Head broadheads. Ooh,
yeah,
that one that's got the Tooth of the Arrow with the sever. Instead of just being a straight blade, it has the little severs in it. So
I haven't seen the other ones because the other ones are PA. Oh, that's the new ones then. So they didn't have sever when I was shooting them. They didn't. But yeah, that looks exactly like a Tooth of an Arrow, but severed.
What was the other one?
So then you have Tough Head broadheads, and that's through Sirius Archery. I'm on their ambassador, field staff, whatever you want to call it. I've been shooting their arrows probably for the last 5 years now, or 4 years, somewhere around there.
They look like a Magnus.
Yeah, so they look kind of like a Magnus. And then if you don't like single bevel or the two blade like that, another good company is VPA Archery. They make a phenomenal fixed broadhead.
I always just use the G5 Montex because they look durable.
You can't go wrong with those. That's where I first learned on.
Don't have to worry about opening up when you're trying to get it in the quiver.
No, I've shot swackers. Don't really care for swackers. But yeah, I've shot a few deer with some Magnuses. It was the Magnus Buzz Cuts, I think. It's got a serrated edge to it. Those are pretty cool. They fly pretty good. So people get on the hype about speed, and all they want to do is chase speed. And I'm like, I could take an arrow and it'd be 15, 20 grains lighter, just say, and I could still hit it 20 yards.
Yep.
Where I'd hit it. And so if bow hunters in general just think that most of the time your shot's going to be 20 yards and in, every once in a while you'll have that 25 and 30 yard shot that you have to take. But the drop of an arrow from 30 to 0 is not that much. You just got to practice with your equipment to find out that perfect balance of the drop. And so I'm a single pin guy. I did start hunting though with Spot Hog's got one out now. The one I'm using now, I'm running Excel right now, but it's a 2-pin up. So you got 20-yard pin, and then your next pin typically is a 30-yard pin or a 25-yard pin, somewhere in there. So everybody's, how do you adjust off the fly off that? I do some homework and I practice with my equipment, and typically I'll range a few trees to say, okay, if they get right there, then you sort of got to get in that judging part of it. But to adjust it, it's just either I raise up a little bit or raise down a little bit, and that's going to put me where I need to be. So I don't chase speed. I think it's a little overhyped. I'd rather have penetration and a straight shooting arrow.
Correct. Yep.
That's where it's going to be at. Speed doesn't kill. It's just going to get there faster. I need something that if a deer is stepping forward, but all of a sudden freezes and that shoulder's back, I need something that's going to not stop.
It's all goes
And
back
that's
to
weight.
the horsepower and torque. Horsepower is how fast you can hit the wall. Torque is how far you take the wall with you when you hit it.
Yep.
So it's like speed and kinetic
100%
energy with an arrow.
Yeah. And I think, and that kind of goes back to where we're both on the same page. Is that celebrity driven? Oh, you got to have this to be, there is some theory behind it.
Yeah. If you're out west.
Yeah.
You're going to pull up a 75-yard shot with an elk, which is completely doable. You probably won't.
Oh, that's 100% do. Yeah. And that's some of my retirement goals is to get out to west, do some elk hunting. And I think the other thing that I want to try to do is make the whitetail slam some of the far western deer. And then I think that kind of goes into all pope and young deer. So 120-inch bigger deer throughout some of that. I forgot how they word it, but there's like they're all whitetail deer, but they're broken almost like turkeys. Yeah.
That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
What's a good sized deer weight wise where you're at?
I would probably say that there's average is on the hoof, 145, 150.
For a full mature buck?
Yeah. Some of them will get up to about that 200 pound. It's not an Iowa deer where they're on the hoof at 250.
200 still pretty good size body up
yeah.
here, but they get way bigger than that.
Oh, yeah. That's probably about average. I'd say probably no more than 210 on the hoof before field dress. There's some big body deer out there, but not big like Midwest deer. That's a whole different breed of deer.
Better diet up here.
Yeah, they got the right food.
Corn fed.
Yeah, corn fed. Exactly.
So you're all saddle hunter now, huh?
Yeah. And so when I say hybrid, it's catching on over the last couple of years. I did do some hang-ons, but then I found saddle hunting and I was like, this is a toolkit for every style of hunting. And then when I switched over to hybrids, what hybrid is, you still run a saddle harness, but you hunt out of a hang-on. So I was running a 0.5, Lone Wolf Customs 0.5 stand and my saddle. And you could hunt pretty much any tree you wanted to. You could turn it. And have you saddle hunted before? No, not yet. Okay, yeah. You could face a tree and hunt your normal saddle method, or you can open up enough slack on your bridge and your tether, one that you're still safe, and then you could turn around and sit down and hunt traditional tree stand. So it just extends the comfortability of it, how long you can sit. So my personal opinion is probably the best method out there. And then Custom Gear Modifications has a new saddle out that is built specifically for that. The front of it is like a normal saddle, so it's got your bridge on front. And then he's taken and sewn a loop in the back of the saddle, almost similar to a rock climbing harness, where you can clip your tether into. So now you can use it just like a tree stand harness, but it's just a saddle. And then if you want to switch over, you can just hook up to your bridge again and go back to saddle hunting.
What do you think's easier to make a shot out of a saddle or standing up and on?
It depends. I think I've done enough saddle hunting. I've got comfortable with it. I will probably say that standing on a stand is probably going to be easier for most. The trick about saddle is trying to set yourself up that you're most likely not going to take a shot to your weak side. So the weak side, I'm a right-handed bow hunter. So if I have to come to my right side, if I'm facing a tree like we are now, and I have to swing to the right side, that would be weak side shot. Now I'm twisted it the other way. So I try to keep everything to my left side over here. So that's my strong side, is the left side. But there's ways to get around that where using the tree and setting your sticks up that I can extend my platform, that if I have to come around the tree to make a shot, I can use my stick that I got up there as another platform. So I could step off my stand or the little platform that I stand on, step onto my stick and still be solid. Now, once you get that way, a strong side on a saddle is phenomenal. Pretty sturdy right there. It's just negotiating the ropes and finding that perfect setup, and how you set yourself up in the tree is going to be the biggest challenge for learning saddle hunting. And I still change to this day. It's insane. You're always trying to find something to make little minute changes on it.
Is it more comfortable to sit in a saddle or a hang on?
With the right equipment, saddle's pretty comfortable, but you can't beat sitting down in a big hang on. You can't do that.
I like to stay standing in my hang-ons most of the time anyways.
And see, that's the thing. Most people stand in their hang-ons anyways. Every once in a while, you'll sit down. But they have some very luxurious hang-ons. You can sit down and you're just like, oh, man, this is amazing. And that's why I'm reluctant to say which one's better, because most tree stand hunters stand in their stands already anyways. And so that's why I switched over. One, it was because being mobile. You talked about your sign. Innovative and adaptable, hunting on public command. If the wind shifts or if something's going, you can easily get down, because I think my whole pack weight with the 0.5 was 13 pounds. And that's sticks, bag, and the stand. Because that's a little baby.
Using?
I was running the XOP X2s.
Okay.
Phenomenal stick. For what you're paying for those sticks, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. They're super light, super sturdy. And I ran 14-inch 8ers on each. On my bottom one, I had a double 8er. So I could put the stick up higher, get up. And then each of my other single sticks, I just ran a 14-inch single 8er. And then sometimes I wouldn't even need the 8er. They're out there. Lone Wolf makes some phenomenal stuff. But I can get a set of 4 of the XOP X2s for $180 when you're paying $100 for one stick from Lone Wolf.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's $100 a stick.
Yeah, it's hard to beat their stuff, but you're paying for it.
They just came out with the Hybrid Ranger. It's their fixed saddle platform with their 0.5 seat. So now it's like a hybrid version of their 0.5. So it's for saddle hunting, and it's called the Hybrid Ranger, and the stand weighs 3 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
So say that again. It's like the saddle platform, but with a seat?
Yep, exactly. If you get on their website, look at their saddle platforms. The platform is the fix, a phenomenal platform that was solely for saddle hunting. So what they did was then take the 0.5 post and the 0.5 seat, and they put it on top of the fixed platform. But they extended the fixed platform a little bit on each side, and now they call it the Ranger, I think is their new stand name for it.
Sounds uncomfortable to sit on.
It's really made for saddle hunting.
What's the advantage of having the seat on it then?
The saddle guys, they swear by how comfortable it is. I'm going to say after about 3 or 4 hours of sitting in that thing, depending on what saddle you have, you start to get hip pinch and you got to adjust it. It's nice to turn around and just kind of let some pressure off and sit down for a second. But they also have it built too, where you can rest your knee on it. You can fold it down and rest your knees and sit in the saddle with your knees up against the tree. That is another downfall about saddle hunting, is the movements are a little more. You can be more stealthy at a stand-up or a regular traditional hang-on, but once you figure out saddle hunting, it's more controlled. But there's a learning curve to it.
You get shaken in the wind, swaying back and forth.
I've done the tree rodeo a few more times than I wanted to in that thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Might have to try it out sometime.
I highly recommend anybody or people you talk to, just buy some used stuff, because it gets pricey. And see if you even like it. That's for one. Some people just don't like it. They go out and spend $300 or $400 in a saddle. They buy a platform for $250. They're buying sticks and all the other stuff that comes with it. And then all of a sudden it's, I don't want this. And now you're out $700.
Are you having your trees picked out ahead of time, or are you just going as you go?
Morning hunts, getting in the woods before the sun comes up, is sometimes interesting, which I got a story for this one. This is at Fort Benning, 23 season. I'd got down into this kind of draw right on the edge transition where the pines started thinning out. The thickness kind of started going away. And I hear some ruckus going on in the morning. And I was pretty certain there was a deer in there making a scrape or a rub, something. It didn't bust me. So I got up in the tree, and I usually carry clippers with me to clip little branches out of the way or whatever. But when I got to the height that I was supposed to be at, got everything set up, and there was a limb that came off in a weird spot. And I was already up there. I'd already had 2 decent 8-points come in. And I saw another deer come over, and he poked his head up, and his main beams were probably 15 inches. Yeah, just giant main beams. And they look almost like swords. He's a real nice 8-point. So I pulled my bow off my hook, and I got situated where I thought I was going to be in the right spot. I got the full draw, and he came in front of me, and I was off edge a little bit. I felt like my draw length had extended, and buck fever starts kicking in. I'm holding a full draw, but I can't get situated. And for some reason, I looked up and that limb was right at my top limb. And I was like, if I shoot this deer right now, I'm going to blow my bow up at the same time. I'm just sitting there holding, and he gave me another opportunity, and he went past me and then turned back around, and he started coming up, and he busted me. Then he blew and took off.
Was the branch caught in there, or you were just bumped up against it?
I was bumped right up against it. And I didn't notice it. That's the thing about finding that tree. It's difficult, especially at night. I usually go in when I get to a tree that I'm like, okay, this will work. I usually carry my headlamps and I'll click it over to red, and I'll look up the tree and I'm like, oh, it's not too bad. I can get this one. For some reason, that one, I thought it was coming off another tree, but it was on the tree that I was in. He was a stud of a deer. And I was just like, gosh, doggy. I was like, the reward's not worth the risk of going home and telling the wife, hey, I got a real nice deer, but now I got to go spend another $1,000 on a bow. I would have just replaced the limbs on it.
Or it would have blown up and you wouldn't have gotten a deer.
Yeah, nothing would have happened, and he would have just spooked out, or I would have got splintered all up in the face with fiberglass or whatever. It does have his advantages and disadvantages, just like with any other style of hunting. It does, but I like it. It's light, it's maneuverable, and very modular. You can put pouches wherever you want them at and run it that way. That's pretty secure, to believe it or not.
Oh, I'm sure it's just as secure, probably more secure than a regular tree stand harness.
Yep.
Just the way it's balanced out if you were to fall.
Yep. And the tree's always going to be facing you. So if you fall out of a tree with a harness off, now you're dangling up there and your back's to the tree, and you got to figure out how to spin around. This one always keeps the tree in front of you, so you can bear hug it and get over to your sticks.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
You got any other embarrassing stories to share with us before we wrap this up?
Oh, yeah.
Bring it on.
Another bow hunt. I got up in a tree, and I don't know what I did. I don't know if my strap wasn't tight enough or whatever. So I got up there, and I always pre-check everything, make sure I got good draw. I can draw my bow without getting crazy. And I went to hang it up on the bow holder. Yeah, the hanger. And I just watched, this was my VXR 31. I watched it fall 22 feet to the ground.
Didn't quite get it on there, right?
I think the strap wasn't. And when I put the weight of the bow on there, it just slid off, and it was just like slow motion. And this is like right at the start of the hunt.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, gosh, dog it. My arrow bust because I had it knocked on there. It's split in half.
Hopefully it hit arrow down, so arrow broadhead hit the ground first. Use a little bit of the string to cushion the blow.
I was lucky it was muddy down there.
Really?
If it would have been dry, I would have broke my bottom cam. So, of course, I had to shimmy down there, get all reset on that, come back up.
You sat the rest of the hunt after that?
Yeah, I pulled the bow back a few times and then blow up. Now, if I would have shot it, I don't know what would have happened. We would have figured that out by time. Then I was hunting at Fort Hood, and this was in 2015 probably. It's a cool story how it worked out. I did miss the deer, unfortunately, but I'm in a ground blind, sitting there, and it's getting late. Probably start getting ready to get going. And all of a sudden, I see this doe's head just right on my peripheral. And she's probably 4 feet away from the stand. It's come through a little break on a ground blind, pushed into this edge, all brushed in. And she had came in, and I was like, there's no way I can make this move right now. And she was skittish anyways. So finally, she gets past me, and her butt's towards me. I finally get my bow up. I get the full draw. And one thing I forgot to do, and the disadvantage of hunting with a single pin, was check my yardage. So I'm at full draw. She's broadside at me, probably about 18, 19 yards. And my sight was set to 25 yards.
Went right over her?
Right over the top.
From 19 to 25 made that much difference, huh?
Yep. And I was like, there's no way. That's also because she ducked the string so much. She may have been shot at before. I don't know. But she ducked the string. I think if she would have ducked it, we probably would have got a high shoulder, high lung hit. But yeah, see some fur go over, and I'm like, oh, going.
That's one bad thing about stopping deer to get the shots. If they're just walking slow, do you just shoot them as they're going or stop them?
Yeah, that's a good question.
They can still jump the string, but you're giving yourself an extra half second probably.
Yeah, as long as that shoulder's forward, I probably would have took that shot when she just turned. But she turned in a way that she was quartering to me with her butt kind of still facing me. I probably could have slipped it in behind that shoulder. But once she had turned, there was a branch and some trees there. And then she came out and just stopped again. But she was already on high alert anyways.
You almost have to aim for the bottom of the heart anymore as they're so jumpy.
Oh, yeah. And I think Mr. Waddell himself, he's got a great video about it. He sets his pin, comes up just below the belly, and kind of gets underneath that where the shoulder comes up to the body. and aims right from that area because most of them are going to duck the screen anyway. So drops down and it's a hard shot every time. I was like, that's a pretty good point. Pretty good point.
Yep, they jump more often than not.
Yeah. But I think those 3 failures, I think the big deer, that big bladed 8-point, he might have been a 9-point. That one will probably haunt me for a long time until I redeem myself.
Would it have been your biggest deer?
Oh, yeah. He was a stud. I'll try to find the video. I got a video of him. If I still have it, I'll email it over to you. Kind of got to zoom in because there was another guy that we hunted on top of each other, and he had him on camera. He shot the bigger one that ran around with him, and he was going to shoot the one that I had the opportunity on, but he just was waiting for the big guy to come in, and then he ended up shooting him probably 400 yards away from where I was set up that morning, like 2 days later. And it was a big deer.
The one you messed up on wasn't even the bigger one.
No, there was a bigger one.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
How big do you think they were?
I could look through my messages. I think the deer that he shot probably was a 130, 140 deer.
Yep.
And the one that I messed up on, he probably was pushing 120, 125.
Pretty big for the area.
Oh, yeah. He had the mass. He had the height on his main beams. And then most of the deer that were in Georgia, there on Fort Benning, were pretty symmetrical 8-points, basic spread of 14 to 18-inch spreads, and average height. Then you get the older ones that had a lot of mass, but still those symmetrical 8-points. And then we started getting in an area that we were running into them where a lot of them had kickers, which was pretty cool.
Everybody likes the kickers.
Oh, yeah. And there was one we called double kickers. He was a real nice mainframe 10, had a lot of mass. He had 2 symmetrical kickers on each side of it that were probably about that long.
There you go.
Yeah, he was a real nice deer. That's the one actually I saw at about 80 yards. Stopped him with a grunt, and he took off. So,
prick.
No, man, I talked to Dan Good. I think he sat down with you.
Yep, you know him?
Yeah, we actually met through Serious Archery. He got on their ambassador team, and he had asked a question on there, and I answered it, and we hit it off after that. And he was, hey, check this out. Man, I got into it, and I was like, man, this is perfect. This is everyday hunters learning from everyday hunters, the failures and how we think. And I think that as you progress this through and get through your first thing of how can we talk to each 50 states, if you get some that start transition to lessons learned or equipment stuff or setups, man, hit me up.
We've definitely had some good people on. I think you're the first from Texas.
If they start finding it, it'll be interesting because Texas is unique as there's a lot of private land that then gets leased out.
Yep.
It's really the management type thing. So the landowner can put stipulations that it's 150-inch deer or bigger, must be 4.5 years old. And I'm like, wait a second.
That surprises me.
I know. And that's like some of those big leases they do. Unless you're very proficient at aging a deer on the hoof, it's sometimes hard to age a deer on the hoof.
100%.
You just got 150-inch deer just running around out here?
The racks always look bigger on Texas deer because the bodies are so small.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Oh, yeah, 100%. And that's deep South Texas. So I don't do the leases. I found out that my house up where I'm originally from and where I retire at, there's 5,000 acres of public land.
There you go.
I'll figure it out there.
There's got to be some place that nobody else is going.
Oh, yeah. Just got to get past the water moccasins.
No thanks.
I don't deal with snakes, and that's what I hated hunting Georgia. They had timber rattlers down there and a whole bunch of snakes. I'm like, whew, no thanks.
I don't think so.
I don't think that's going to work.
I appreciate you joining, man. It's been good visiting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to some more of your podcasts coming out. How many total do you have out right now? Is it 4?
8.
8? I got to catch up.
Yeah, 8.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know the last one that I saw the clips on the Facebook page the other day about the guy talking about turkey hunting and the $90 cane-wear bow.
Yeah, he's from Alabama.
He was like, Mom, man, I appreciate you having me on, man. And I look forward to the growth of your channel, and I'll support it.
We've had a couple episodes between 120 and 150, and then it goes back down. So it's how do you find those secrets to actually get people to subscribe?
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll pick up pretty fast during hunting season.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of A Hunter's Legacy. Remember, hunting isn't just about the harvest. It's about the journey and the legacy we all leave behind. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with all the other hunters in your life. And if you have a story to tell, we'd love to hear it, because every hunter has a legacy worth sharing.